Shadow Metagross looking to farm up to the back-to-back Meteor Mashes. You know the drill, the first Meteor Mash will be forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield. The second Meteor Mash is going to get the opponent incredibly low. We know Florges is still alive. Garchomp looking like a pretty good third shield. Night Slash will be securing the knockout. Metagross looking to Bullet Punch farm down everything. It's Bullet Punch versus Feraligatr. Who will prevail? Well, you're going to have to watch the video to find out. So welcome back to the channel. Look at my on-screen elo. We found ourselves back in the trenches yet again. I attempted to run Shadow Aggron and got absolutely wrecked going 2-10. And it was a pretty miserable time. So I thought, fuck it. It's time to unload the big Donnies. Some of the biggest stat product Shadow Pokemon you can possibly run. We've got the OG Shadow Metagross, a staple of Master League Premier. All the way since it was first released, maxed out all the way at level 50. Next up, we've got Garchomp, again maxed out all the way at level 50. I decided to run Mud Shot because I didn't really fancy just tapping my phone and you watching me fast move beat down everything. Rounding the team off, we've got Gyarados being equipped at level 51 as our best buddy Say Switch. Without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game one, as if I wasn't already tilted enough, we lead Garchomp into Togekiss. Where the hell was that lead when I was running Aggron? Today's video, you're going to see some mistakes made, and I'm going to talk through some gameplay and some things I could have done different to help me pull off some more victories. We save switch into Gyarados, drawing out Goodra. We fire off the Crunch, forcing a Protect Shield. The opponent fires off the Thunder Punch. This is only an Aqua Tail. I know I can survive this. We're going to reach one further Crunch, and then Ball is in the opponent's court. I'm either going to get that alignment I want, or give Metagross a 1-0 shield advantage. Metagross up a Protect Shield pretty much beats everything in this meta, especially in a situation like this where I'm even going to have an energy lead as well. Even if the opponent's got a fire type, we're rocking that Earthquake for coverage. We get the Bullet Punch farm down, the opponent sends out Annihilate, Shadow Meteor Mash, lands for huge damage, rocking 8 deep into the red. We then farm up, look to catch the Shadow Ball onto Garchomp. Garchomp being used as the third shield. The opponent fires off the Shadow Ball. Send out Togekiss, of course. This is dreadful, but this game is already going to be signed, sealed, and delivered. We throw the Earth Power, fishing for the defense shot, which we don't get. But really, do we need it? Of course we don't. We're just going to shield up whatever Togekiss throws. They throw the Ancient Power. No bait. We'll be saving this opponent's fate. We fire off the Meteor Mash. Going to be high Togekiss, bye Togekiss. When Annihilate does return, we're going to Bullet Punch farm down and take that game. In the next battle, the tough leads continue. Ironically, another decent matchup for Aggron, which I've now put on the bench. That's sometimes how GBL goes. We save switch into Gyarados. The opponent fires off the Avalanche, and ouch, that hurts. Then out comes Feraligatr. This Crunch will land for some decent damage. However, the opponent is going to be able to Shadow Claw farm us all the way down. And I imagine if you're going to run Gator in MLP, you certainly have Ice Beam, because Dragons are going to be here, there, and every fucking where. The opponent isn't in a range where I think I can Mud Shot farm down, so we're going to use Garchomp once again as the third shield. I'm so pleased I spent 715,000 Stardust, maxing that thing out, as it has been phenomenal in the first two battles. Again, we put all our hopes and dreams on the back of Metagross. We shield up the Hydro Cannon, commit to the Bullet Punch farm down. The opponent can't return with Mamoswine. They're forced to send out their third, which is Togekiss, and Metagross, once again, is looking like the very finest get out of jail free card. Meteor Mash goes unshielded. The opponent at this stage can save both them shields for next season. They're not going to reach double charge moves. We're going to shield up the obvious Avalanche bait, Bullet Punch farm down, and take that game. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, we see Dragonite in the lead. As I've opted for Mud Shot, we're going to pivot into Gyarados. The opponent stays in, looking for some chip and dip action. They fire off the Dragon Claw. We easily withstand the damage, and the opponent makes a very interesting counter swap, sending out Excadrill into a Gyarados for an energy lead. Aqua Tail lands for big damage. The opponent then throws on alignment, and that is going to mean we're going to be able to shield once, Dragon Tail farm down, and leave with residual energy good to go. If you see a Dragonite lead with an Excadrill Say Switch, it's pretty fair to assume the final Pokemon is going to be Metagross. Dragonite Double Steel is insanely common. However, as I say that, the opponent surprises me, sending out Waterfall Gary. We fire off the Crunch regardless, forcing a Protect Shield. The opponent unable to Waterfall farm us down before we reach the second Crunch. The second Crunch goes unshielded, and that is some very much needed chip damage. We're just going to send out Garchomp to operate as the damage sponge. The opponent banks their energy, send out Dragonite, and we respond with Metagross. I'm going to call the opponent's going to Dragon Claw bait, force my Protect Shield, and then look to Superpower. But of course, we get the shield call wrong. We look for the Bullet Punch farm down. We're unable to get it before the departing Dragon Claw. We're just going to shield this up, bullet punch farm down, and this is where I make a mistake. I try and CMP the opponent. The opponent takes the extra, so I should have went for one and throw. And then we'd be able to reach the second Meteor Mash. Luckily, Metagross is thick enough to be able to reach the second Meteor Mash regardless. But that was quite ill-disciplined from me, and I should do better. So do as I say, and not as I do. In the next battle, we see Gyarados in the lead. Another very nice shadow from the opponent. I stayed in to check the fast move. The opponent is running Dragon Breath. If they would have been on Waterfall, I would have opted to stay in. The opponent makes a very nice catch onto Incineroar, or so they would think. However, this is where stat product comes into play. The opponent plays the CMP tie. They do not win. Shout out Homesize Henry for that quote. Gyarados secures the knockout. The opponent completely sacks Incineroar. It made a very brief cameo appearance. The opponent sends back out their own Shadow Gary, and my Gyarados has almost removed 2 Pokemon from the field of play. However, despite this fact, the opposing Shadow Gyarados is still somewhat of an issue for me, as I have no fast move pressure into it. I send out Metagross, get baited with the Aqua Tail, but the opponent's going to be unable to reach the crunch. So I know this is only an Aqua Tail, and I'm going to look to tank the damage. Aqua Tail still does a lot. Shadow on Shadow Crime. The opponent then sends out their own Metagross. I think baiting would be my lose con, so we're just going to guarantee the opponent's Protect Shield, go in double Earthquake, and then pivot into Garchomp. The opponent going to fire off the Meteor Mash. I am going to invest the Protect Shield. No one outpace to the next Earthquake. The opponent can look to call the bait. They can shield. I simply do not care. Earthquake does force a Protect Shield. We pivot into Garchomp. As I said in the intro, Garchomp and Metagross have huge stat products, so one Meteor Mash won't be lethal. I'm worried the opponent's switch timer pops up, so I look to pause, fire off the Earth Power. You can see we get 2 bullet punches through, so I actually pause for 2 turns rather than 1 because I'm a potato, but regardless, this game's over. Gyarados Dragon Breaths us down, we bullet punch farm them down, and we take that game. The tough leads continue. We save switch into Gyarados. Oh man, how did I not see these leads when I was running Aggron? You couldn't make it up. The opponent answered my Gyarados save switch with Metagross, a very interesting counter swap. We look to fire off the Aqua Tail, losing CMP. However, we are going to survive this Meteor Mash, so we're either going to take back switch or force alignment. Either's fine for me, as we love to set up our own Metagross with shield advantage. The opponent invests that Protect Shield. Unfortunately, it looks like we're going to be unable to Mudshot farm them down before they reach a Meteor Mash, but we know we survive and we will leave with residual energy. I called the team Dragonite Double Steal earlier. I was wrong, but again we're going to call it. So when a Mudshot farm down, we're going to spam the switch and look to catch a Dragon Claw. The opponent banks a boatload of energy and then send out Excadrill. However, the opponent makes a mistake here. As they give me an energy lead, I know I can double shield and go straight Earthquake all the way. So we're going to shield up the drill run, we're going to farm up, throw the Earthquake on the CMP tie. The opponent is now 5 off the next. I'm also 5 off the next, there's no need to bait. As I said in the intro, I made some mistakes, and you're going to see a mistake here. I've got an Outrage bank, and I was fairly confident I'd win CMP. I think Garchomp has a pretty high attack, which it does. So after throwing this Earthquake, the opponent is going to need to double up on charge moves, so I should look to snipe, as that is my only win con. What I do is I look to let the opponent take me out, thinking I'll win CMP, and unfortunately I do not. Of course, if I would look to snipe and got it wrong, the opponent could have seen me coming in, thrown the Dragon Claw, but regardless, it would have been a loss either way, so I should have at least attempted to snipe him. So here you can see me entering PV Poke. I think, did I lose CMP or is game bad? Game is bad, but I actually did legit lose CMP. A Dragonite has around a 2 higher attack. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see the Dream Lead. Finally! The opponent save switches into Goodra. And again, I think I make a mistake sending out Gyarados. Of course, Goodra's Comday move is Thunder Punch, which is double super effective. I think my thought process at the time of playing these battles was, well, it doesn't want to see Magnezone. We may as well throw it away. Gyarados should be able to win this if the opponent goes straight Thunder Punch. However, I'm going to shield this. If this is a Thunder Punch, we're going to be able to Dragon Tail farm down. The opponent baits with the Aqua Tail. I still look for the farm down, and heartbreakingly, we make another mistake, not throwing. So we don't force the final shield. We're down shields and we haven't got switch. Oh man, this was such a frustrating battle. We send out Metagross. Metagross gets a running start. Back out comes Magnezone. We're going to try and catch the Wild Charge onto Garchomp unsuccessfully. Out comes Waterfall Gary. This game isn't over yet. We've still got a chance. We go straight Outrage. The opponent shows no respect. Get rocked deep into the red. It takes a Gyarados using Waterfall. 8 Waterfalls the Outrage. This can only be a crunch, which we survive. We're then going to be able to one and throw the Earth Power. If the opponent shields this, we are in business. And we have a win con despite playing dreadful in that mid game. The opponent gives up that final Protect Shield. We are going to be able to survive a crunch, and we've got the Earthquake banked. The opponent likely looked to snipe, so I'm just going to tank this and blind throw the Earthquake. You see me hit the Earthquake. Hello game. I am absolutely adamant we should win that CMP tie. I know Dragonite cleanly wins and we've got a pretty similar attack stat. I go on to PV Poke, so the last battle was operator error. This CMP tie isn't even close. It's like 26 or something. Niantic, fix your fucking game. Heading into the next battle. Normal service has resumed with a dreadful lead. Okay, let's be reasonable. I'm pretty tilted from the last battle. This lead isn't that bad, to be honest, as Fairy Wind isn't an oppressive fast move, and we do pace at the same speed to the Earth Powers and the Moonblast. We force a Protect Shield, the opponent baits with the Disarming Voice, and they're now going to be forced to dump further energy. Garchomp obtains shield advantage against the Fairy. We send out Metagross, the opponent not wanting to get farmed down, pivot out into Annihilate, and we respond with Gyarados. I've got no intention of shielding Gyarados whatsoever. We're just going to save 2 shields from Metagross and hope to sweep. We tank the Shadow Ball, return fire with the Crunch. Crunch gets the defense shot, which allows us to get the Dragon Tail farm down, and we leave with an Aqua Tail. Back out comes Florges. I'm unsure if I survive 2 Fairy Winds. We're just going to take the safe play, guaranteeing we get the damage off. Aqua Tail gets the opponent below half health. We do resist everything in Florges' arsenal. So we tank the Disarming Voice. The opponent then pivots out into Shadow Snorlax. We've got 2 shields, and the opponent is just going to go straight Body Slam. Shadow and Shadow Crime, Meteor Mash does so much damage. The opponent shields the first, they then fire off the Body Slam, which of course I'm going to shield. I instant throw against Florges, because if I didn't survive 2 Fairy Winds, I would have needed New Mechanic to get off the Aqua Tail. And ironically here, you're going to see the opponent's 1 lick off the Body Slam, and they get New Mechanic. You can tell that, because when I shield this up, that Bullet Punch that did sneak through did knock them out. New Mechanic is going to win this opponent that game. Holy cow, what a frustrating day of GBL. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, it looks like we can't catch a lead. Although in fairness, running Mud Shot, this isn't the worst matchup. We're going to pace at the same speed to the Earth Power and the Moonblast. The opponent goes for the Disarming Voice. We might be a Shadow Bit trainer that just simply will not get the job done. I heavily overfarm before firing off the Earth Power, hoping to confuse the opponent's count. The first one lands. The opponent then plays the CMP tie. They do not win. Shout out Home Slice Henry for that quote. And Garchomp manages to take shield advantage in a matchup against the Fairy. The opponent goes for the no bobble, allowing them to get a 1 Fairy Wind farm down. However, we've got a perfect response with Metagross. Metagross comes in, looks for the Bullet Punch farm down. We're unable to get it before the opponent reaches the departing Moonblast. Metagross tanks it like an absolute boss, and out comes Excadrill. Try my luck, catching the Rock Slide unsuccessfully. We are going to shield up the Rock Slide, looking to maintain some health. The opponent then makes a good catch, although in fairness, another mistake throwing the move on alignment. Although the opponent catches onto Metagross, which of course is fine for me. I certainly think like the tilt's kicking in, but of course using a free turn move, I should always find an odd number. So only allow 1 free turn of energy, and of course minimise the chance of the opponent making that catch. We fire off the Aqua Tail, the opponent returns fire. With the Meteor Mash, we withstand the damage. Back out comes Excadrill. The opponent doesn't fire off their energy, and that is going to seal their fate. Because of course I'm never shielding this move up. We're almost at an Earthquake, Rock Slide, or the BM Drill Run will secure the knockout. I like the BM from the opponent, but unfortunately, you're still going to pick up a loss. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we lead Garchomp into another Florges. Like, honestly, how many battles in a row can we see this stupid plant? I always wonder, why is Florges a fairy? It literally is a plant, and it's not a grass type. I have no idea what Niantic was thinking, but who am I to judge? As we've got ourselves shield advantage, we're just going to tank the move. The opponent actually fire off the Disarming Voice and then make a very nice catch, catching the Earth Power onto Goodra. Earth Power hits for neutral, still does a lot of damage, and I can now send out Gyarados. We're going to be able to outpace to the Aqua Tail just before the opponent reaches a Thunder Punch. Aqua Tail goes unshielded, securing the knockout. Back out comes Florges, and they are going to need a Moonblast to knock us out from here. Again, we're going to put all our hopes and dreams on the back of Metagross. The opponent fires off a Disarming Voice, then opt to throw 1 further, looking to keep some health. Again, we're going to no shield, and let's go Metagross. Out comes Metagross. In a previous battle, I was reluctant to shield a resisted move, and it looks like I don't learn my lesson. I'm still refusing to shield the Moonblast, and out comes Annihilate. So again, in hindsight, I probably should have shielded that. The opponent goes straight for the Night Slash. Of course, we're going to shield this up, and we're going to look to reach the double Meteor Mash. The first one, you know the drill, will be forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield. The second one is going to land for big damage. Switch Timer will be popping up, and as always, Garchomp looking like a pretty good third shield. We pivot out into Garchomp, and Metagross is going to look to Bullet Punch farm down everything. Metagross rapidly running out of HP. It's going to be Fairy Wind versus Bullet Punch. Who will prevail? Metagross holds strong, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see the Garchomp mirror. The opponent running Dragon Tail, so it's a no thank you from me and a safe switch into Gyarados. The opponent answers my Gyarados safe switch with a waterfall variant, of course. We're much favoured in this matchup due to us hitting for neutral and them hitting for resisted damage. The opponent doesn't farm up to an outrage, so we should be able to tank a crunch. The opponent actually bait with the Aqua Tail, which we survive. However, the opponent isn't quite so fortunate, as our Dragon Tails have put them into Aqua Tail range. The opponent really want to keep that super positive alignment. However, trainer, I'm not going to let that happen. We're going to shield up the Aqua Tail, commit to the Dragon Tail farm down, and we're even going to reach a departing Aqua Tail onto Garchomp, doing some very much needed chip damage. Aqua Tail gets the opponent below half health. I am going to look to realign. However, I do have to be mindful that a few trainers do run double ground movesets with Sand Tomb and Earth Power. The opponent farms up to it. We respect it, and that is a huge shield. The opponent then sends out Chandelure. We're not even going to bait the Earthquake. Chandelure cannot tank a hit for shit. Meteor Mash forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. We then pivot out into Garchomp. Garchomp will tank any one move. Shadow Ball gets us low, which is perfect. We're then going to fire off 8 Mud Shots. And the Earth Power. Earth Power, of course, massive overkill. We're going to get taken out by 1 Dragon Tail. The opponent's going to need to reach the Sand Tomb. Can they get there? Metagross says no. Bullet Punch farms down, and we take that game. We are going to round out today's video with one bonus battle with the Aggron team that I managed to go 2-10 with. We see Gyarados in the lead. When I first saw this, I thought that is a great lead. However, I tanked an Aqua Tail, realised it did 75%, and realised Aggron cannot tank a hit whatsoever in this format. We catch the Aqua Tail on Gyarados. The opponent then stays in, fire off the crunch, which we shield, and we get a massive Dragon Tail farm down. Out comes the Ape. We fire off 1 Dragon Tail and the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail doesn't do too much damage, so logically thinking the opponent probably isn't going to shield this next move. So we fire off the crunch, looking to do maximum damage, which we do, and we force the energy. The opponent fires off Night Slash, which is good information to know, as Dragonite doesn't have to be fearful of any Ice Punch. I wait out my clock, send out Dragonite. The opponent aggressively pivots out into Excadrill. We're just going to go straight Dragon Claw. We don't want to debuff our defense, and the opponent essentially needs to shield everything. The opponent continuing to farm up. They farm up to the double move. So Aggron is going to operate as the third shield. Theme of today's video is whatever I've led with has essentially been the very best third shield you could possibly run. Well, that is definitely a joke, as both of these Shadow Pokemon have cost me over 700,000 dust. The opponent tanks the Stone Edge, fire off the Drill Run. The win con from here is going to be pretty simple. Tank 1, shield 1, tap my phone like a lunatic, Dragon Breath farm down everything, and Aggron finally manages to pick up a win. GG's, and thanks for playing. And that is going to wrap things up for today's showcase. I think that was probably one of the most tilting days of GBL I have ever played. Game was bad in some situations, and I did play poorly in other situations. So moral of the story is, if you're not having fun, you should take a break. The only reason any of us should game is for enjoyment, and if you're not having fun, that tells you definitely need to take a break, which I do often. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing if you'd like your battles featured on my channel. A link to my battle submission form is down below, and as always, a huge thank you to everyone for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.